So you download this bright, brand new language app,
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
right? And you buy this expensive, super heavy textbook.
Uh,
You completely clear your schedule. You sit down at your desk and you study English for like 5 intense hours on a Sunday.
wow, 5 hours. That's a lot.
It is. And you feel incredibly productive.
Yeah.
But then the very next day, a native speaker asks you for simple directions on the street. And
Let me guess. Total panic.
exactly, your mind just goes completely blank. You freeze. You literally cannot remember a single word.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling in the world.
It really is. Well, welcome to the Coffee English podcast, everyone. Today we are unpacking the actual biological reason why trying too hard might actually be, ruining your English.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about how to finally learn the language without all that constant heavy stress. So hello, everyone, and welcome. It is so wonderful to have you join us for this deep dive today. But before we jump into the science and the strategies behind learning English, I do want to share a really quick note with you.
Oh, right, the language level.
Yeah. So this conversation is mainly designed for English learners who are currently at like a B1 or B2 level. Because of that, we are going to try to speak very clearly and maybe just a little bit slower than normal.
But obviously anyone can listen, right?
Oh, for sure. Anyone can listen and enjoy the psychological concepts we're exploring today. But I want to tell you directly, the listener, if you don't understand every single word we use today, please do not worry.
Yeah, definitely don't stress about it.
Just relax and continue listening. Learning English is a marathon, not a sprint. You are doing something genuinely great for your brain just by being here with us today.
I love that so much. A marathon, not a sprint. Okay, let's unpack this. Why does learning a language so often feel like pushing a giant rock up a hill?
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Because you start on day one with like maximum motivation. You really believe you're going to conquer the world.
Right, you're so excited.
But then you fast forward 3 months and you just feel tired, you feel confused, and honestly, a bit defeated.
Well, it happens to almost every learner. And the root cause it usually isn't a lack of intelligence, right, or lack of effort.
No, people try really hard.
They do. The root cause is actually a trap, specifically the expectation trap.
Oh, the expectation trap. What do you mean by that?
Well, we live in this world of instant gratification, We want our food delivered in 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, guilty.
Right. We want our internet to be lightning fast, and we just expect our brains to download information exactly like a computer.
Like plugging it in.
Biology simply does not operate on that timeline. It just doesn't.
And I mean, social media makes this so much worse.
Oh, don't even get me started on social media.
Right, because you scroll through your phone and you see these flashy videos of people standing in front of, like, private jets. And they're saying, learn to speak perfect, fluent English in 30 days.
Yeah, the 30-day myth.
It creates a totally false reality. When a learner watches that, they think, well, if they did it in 30 days, I can do it too.
And those videos, they're not just annoying, they are actively harmful to a learner's psychology.
Wait, harmful? How so?
Because they set up an expectation that is neurologically impossible. When you see a promise of fluency in a month, and then you study for a month, and you still cannot understand a fast movie.
Which is completely normal, by the way.
Highly normal. But what happens? You internalize that failure. You start thinking, oh, my brain is broken, or I am just not good at languages.
Wow, yeah. You blame yourself.
Exactly. But you didn't fail.
Yeah.
The expectation was just completely disconnected from reality.
Right. It's kind of like telling someone they can grow a giant oak tree in their garden in 3 weeks.
Yes.
And when they only see a tiny green plant, they think they're a terrible gardener.
That is a perfect way to put it.
But let's look at the actual mechanism of the brain here. Why does it take so long? Like, what is physically happening inside our heads when we learn a new language?
Okay, so think of your brain as a dense, wild forest.
A forest, okay.
Yeah. When you learn a new English word or a new grammar rule, you are walking through that thick forest for the very first time.
So there's no path yet.
Right. There's no path. You have to push heavy branches out of the way. You trip over rocks. It takes a massive amount of physical and mental energy.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. In neurological terms, you are trying to forge a brand new neural pathway.
So hearing a word just once is like walking through that forest one single time.
Exactly.
The path is still covered in grass and bushes, and by the next day, the forest has already grown back over the path.
Spot on. To turn that rough path into a smooth, paved road where information travels instantly, Your brain requires massive amounts of repetition over time.
Just walking that same path again and again.
Yes. And this brings us to one of the most fundamental rules of language acquisition, which is that consistency matters far more than intensity.
Okay, I really want to explore this because this is where that Sunday study session we talked about earlier completely fails.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's use an analogy. Imagine trying to eat an entire week's worth of food on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Right. You sit down at your kitchen table and you try to eat 21 full meals all at once, just so you don't have to eat again until next Sunday.
That sounds completely ridiculous.
It does. Your stomach would rebel. You would be incredibly sick. Your body cannot physically digest that much food at one time.
That is a brilliant illustration, really.
But people do the exact same thing with their brains.
They really do.
They try to force-feed their brains 5 hours of complex English grammar on Sunday, and they fully expect their brain to digest all of it.
Yeah, and then they ignore English completely from Monday to Saturday.
Exactly. It doesn't work for your stomach, and it absolutely does not work for your brain.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really all comes down to a concept called cognitive load.
Cognitive load. What is that?
So cognitive load refers to the amount of working memory your brain is using at any given moment. And here's the thing. Your working memory is actually very small.
Really? Like how small?
Very small. When you sit down for an intense 5-hour study session, your cognitive load maxes out within the first 45 minutes.
Wait, 45 minutes?
Yeah. After that, your brain becomes totally overwhelmed. Cortisol starts to rise.
And cortisol is a stress hormone, right?
Exactly. It's a stress hormone. And when it rises, your brain literally stops recording new memories.
Wait, really? It just shuts down?
It basically does.
Okay.
The last 4 hours of that study session are essentially wasted time.
So you're saying that after an hour, the brain actually puts up a wall and refuses to accept more information?
Yes, the brain is protecting itself from exhaustion, but compare that to someone who studies for just 15 minutes.
Okay, much shorter.
But they do it every single day. The cognitive load is very low, it feels light, easy, and manageable.
It's not stressful at all.
Right. And more importantly, that daily contact sends a crucial survival signal to your brain.
That survival signal, how does English equal survival?
Well, when you touch the English language every single day, your brain thinks, oh, wow, we are encountering this information daily. It must be vital for our survival in this environment.
Oh, wow.
I need to keep these neural pathways open and strong.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
The brain thinks English is a survival tool just because you keep showing it to the brain every 24 hours.
Precisely. And there's another biological secret here, too.
What's that?
Sleep.
Sleep?
Yes. Memory consolidation, which is basically the process of moving short-term memories into long-term storage. It happens primarily while you sleep.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah. So if you study for 15 minutes a day, you get 7 nights of sleep to process that information. That's 7 cycles of memory consolidation.
While the Sunday
If you cram for 5 hours on Sunday, you only get 1 night of processing before you abandon the language for the whole week.
So the daily person is literally building a stronger brain architecture while they sleep. That is amazing. But, if regular daily contact is the goal, what kind of contact should it be?
That's the big question.
Because spending 15 minutes staring at a boring list of vocabulary words still feels like torture.
It absolutely feels like torture, which is why we have to talk about how we actually consume the language.
Yeah.
And this leads us to the absolute foundation of language learning, which is listening.
Okay, let me push back immediately on this because I know exactly what learners are thinking right now.
Go for it.
Textbooks teach us that we need to start with the alphabet, right?
Okay.
Then the verb to be, then the present simple tense.
Classic textbook approach, yeah.
Right. We are taught to build the grammar foundation first. Are you saying the textbooks have it backwards?
In many ways, yes. The traditional textbook method definitely has it backwards.
Wow. Okay.
Focusing heavily on complex grammar rules before you truly know what the language sounds like is a massive mistake.
Why is it a mistake?
Well, it's like trying to build the roof of a house before you have poured the concrete foundation. Listening is the concrete foundation.
I see what you mean. Because when you only read textbooks, you're learning a very artificial version of English.
Very artificial.
It's flat, it's silent. But when you listen to podcasts, just like the listeners are doing right now, you get used to the reality of the language.
Exactly.
You hear the rhythm. You hear the natural music of the sentences.
The music is a really great way to describe it.
Yeah.
Because human speech is not just a collection of separate words.
Right. We don't speak like robots.
No, words melt together. The end of one word naturally connects to the beginning of the next word.
Yeah, native speakers link everything.
They do. And when you listen to real conversations, your brain engages in automatic pattern recognition.
So you don't even have to try.
You don't even have to consciously try.
Yeah.
Your brain naturally starts to notice which words usually hang out together. It notices how a speaker's voice goes up when they ask a question and how emotions change the tone.
But let's talk about the dark side of listening for a second.
Uh-oh, the dark side.
Yeah, the panic.
Yeah.
Because listening to real English can be genuinely terrifying.
It really can.
A learner turns on an English movie. The actors are speaking incredibly fast. There is background noise.
Sirens, music, yeah.
Right. The learner misses one word. Then they miss a second word. And suddenly their heart beats faster. They panic. They think, I'm failing. I don't understand anything.
That panic is a very real physical reaction. The brain feels threatened by the unknown. But we really have to normalize missing words.
Normalize missing words.
Yes. I want every listener to hear this right now. Even native English speakers miss words constantly.
Oh, that's so true.
If you are sitting in a noisy restaurant or talking to someone who mumbles or if someone has a cold, you will miss words in your native language.
We don't panic when that happens.
No, you don't panic. Your brain simply uses the context of the situation to guess the missing word. English learners must give themselves permission to do the exact same thing. You're allowed to miss words.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I think the reason people panic is because they have the wrong goal.
What do you mean?
The learner's goal is usually trying to achieve a perfect word-for-word translation in their head.
Yes. The translation trap.
Right. They hear a word in English, pause to translate it into their native language, try to understand the concept, and then return to listen to the next word.
Which is impossible to maintain.
Exactly, because human speech moves at about 150 words per minute. You cannot mentally translate that fast. It is a biological bottleneck.
It is a massive bottleneck.
Yeah.
And honestly, it creates pure exhaustion. Shifting this single mindset changes the entire learning experience.
How should they shift it?
Well, your goal is not to be a perfect dictionary. Your goal is general understanding.
General understanding.
If you watch a video and you think, okay, I missed a lot of specific verbs, but I understand the general stories about a man having a terrible day at the airport.
Then you did it.
Exactly. Then you have succeeded.
Yes. And, when you drop that heavy burden of translation, the experience goes from being stressful to being genuinely enjoyable.
You actually have fun.
Right. You start listening to the story rather than aggressively hunting for individual vocabulary words.
Exactly. And when the brain is relaxed, the affective filter lowers.
The affective filter.
Yeah, in linguistics, the affective filter is like an emotional wall. When you are stressed or panicked, the wall goes up and literally no language can enter your brain.
Wow. So stress blocks learning physically.
It does. But when you are relaxed and just focus on the story, the wall comes down and your brain absorbs the language naturally.
Okay, so we listen, we build the foundation, we lower the emotional wall.
Right.
But eventually, we can't just be silent listeners forever, right? We have to interact with the world.
We do. We have to speak.
We have to open our mouths. And honestly, this might be the single scariest part of the entire journey, the deep, paralyzing fear of speaking.
Speaking causes an enormous amount of anxiety. And psychologists understand exactly why this happens.
Why is it so terrifying?
Because when you speak a foreign language, you lose your adult identity. Think about it. In your native language, you are smart, funny, professional, and articulate.
You know exactly who you are.
Yes.
Yes.
But when you speak a new language, you suddenly feel like a child again. You feel exposed and totally vulnerable.
It is a massive blow to the ego.
Huge.
You have these complex, beautiful thoughts in your head, but the only words that actually come out of your mouth are like, the cat is black.
Yeah. It's deeply frustrating.
And I think this fear usually breaks down into two specific worries, right? The fear of making a humiliating mistake and the fear of having a bad accent.
Let's completely deconstruct those fears because they are blocking so much potential for learners.
Let's do it.
First, the fear of making mistakes. People are terrified that if they use the wrong verb tense, the listener will just think they are uneducated.
Which isn't true.
It's not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
And second, the accent. Learners are obsessed with sounding like a Hollywood actor or, a news reporter from London.
Right. They think, if I don't sound like James Bond, I just shouldn't speak at all.
Which is tragic. English is a global language now. It belongs to the world.
It really does.
There are highly advanced, brilliant English speakers, heart surgeons, global politicians, leading scientists who speak with very heavy accents.
Yeah, accents don't mean you aren't fluent.
Exactly. Perfection is an absolute myth. We need to replace the goal of perfection with the goal of successful communication.
I like that. Successful communication.
If you go to a bakery, use incorrect grammar, speak with a heavy accent, but you successfully buy the bread you wanted,
Then it works.
your English was 100% successful.
Successful communication over perfect grammar.
Yeah.
But let me play the devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me represent the nervous learner. I understand buying bread is low stakes, But what if I make a mistake and people judge me? Like, what if I am in a high-stakes environment, a professional business meeting, and I use the completely wrong word? My boss or my clients might judge my intelligence. The real world does have biases, right?
Yeah.
People do judge. How do we survive that?
That is a very valid pushback. And you're right, the professional world can be extremely intimidating.
Very.
But we have to look at the psychology of the spotlight effect.
The spotlight effect.
Yeah, the spotlight effect is a psychological bias where we believe everyone is paying strict attention to every tiny mistake we make.
Like a bright light shining right on us.
Exactly. We feel like a bright spotlight is shining on our errors. But the truth is, most people are entirely focused on themselves.
So they are too busy worrying about their own presentation to care about your grammar mistake.
Exactly. Furthermore, the vast majority of native English speakers are incredibly supportive of language learners.
Why is that?
Because most native English speakers only speak one language. They know how difficult it is.
Oh, that's a great point.
When they hear you trying to explain a complex business idea in a second or third language, they aren't thinking, oh, they forgot the letter S on that plural noun.
Right, they're probably just impressed.
They are. They're thinking, it is incredibly impressive that they can negotiate a contract in a foreign language.
That is a very comforting perspective. And the truth is, you fall into a terrible trap if you let that fear control you. I call it the perfect moment trap.
Oh, the perfect moment. I know this one.
Yeah. Learners tell themselves, I will start speaking in business meetings when I am truly ready. I'll wait until I know 5,000 words. I'll wait until my pronunciation is flawless.
But that perfect moment is an illusion.
It will never arrive.
Never. If you wait until you feel completely ready and comfortable, you will be silent for the rest of your life.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's true. The only way to improve the physical skill of speaking is through the physical act of speaking.
Even when it feels awful.
Especially then. Yes, it will feel very uncomfortable at first. Your tongue will feel thick. You will forget simple words. You will take long pauses.
It'll sweat?
You'll sweat. But you have to recognize that this feeling of discomfort is exactly what learning feels like.
I love that. Discomfort is what learning feels like. It's like a muscle burning at the gym.
Perfect comparison.
And the only way to build confidence is by actually surviving the mistake. Like, you're in a meeting, you say the wrong word, you feel your face get hot, but then nobody laughs. The building doesn't burn down, the meeting just continues.
Right.
Your brain realizes, oh, we survived. Mistakes are not actually dangerous.
Surviving the mistake lowers the brain's threat response. It's vital. But we have to address why learners are so terrified of making mistakes in the first place.
Where does it come from?
Where does this strict fear of breaking the rules come from? It almost always comes from the education system.
Ah, school.
Yes. And this brings us right into the very dangerous, highly debated territory of grammar.
Ah, grammar, the obsession that kills progress.
It really can.
Now, we want to be very careful here. We are not saying grammar is bad, right? We are not saying you should ignore it completely.
No, not at all.
Grammar is the skeleton of the language. Without a skeleton, the body collapses. But you cannot build a human out of only bones. You need muscles, skin, and a heartbeat.
That is a brilliant analogy. The danger lies in becoming obsessed with the skeleton.
Obsessed with bones.
Yeah. When learners treat English like a mathematical equation where every sentence must be perfectly calculated before it is spoken, they freeze.
Yes. It is like reading a technical manual about the physics of riding a bicycle for 3 straight years.
Okay, yeah.
You know the exact angles, you know the friction of the tires, you pass the written test with a perfect score,
Right.
but you have never actually touched a real bicycle. So the moment you sit on the seat, you fall right over.
This is exactly what linguists call the monitor hypothesis.
The monitor hypothesis.
Yeah. When you overstudy grammar, you create a very strict monitor in your brain. It is like a little grammar police officer living in your head.
A grammar police officer. I love that.
Every time you want to speak, the police officer stops you and says, "Wait, is that a regular or irregular verb? Are you sure you shouldn't use the past perfect continuous here?"
Blowing a whistle in your brain.
Right. And while the police officer's checking all the rules, the conversation just moves on without you. You are frozen in silence.
I have seen this scenario play out so many times in real life. You meet a learner who is brilliant on paper. They can complete the most advanced textbook exercises perfectly.
But in reality,
You sit down with them at a real coffee shop, and they cannot casually chat about the weather because real speech is messy.
very messy.
Real speech has half-finished sentences. People use slang. The textbook doesn't prepare you for the messy reality of human connection.
This raises an important question, though.
What's that?
If the textbook is not enough, but we still need the structural rules of grammar, how do we find the correct balance?
Right. How do we do both?
The answer is that language learning must be organic. All the parts, listening, speaking, reading, vocabulary, and grammar, must work together dynamically.
So what does organic learning look like in a practical day?
It looks like this. You might spend 5 minutes reading a grammar rule to understand why we add an ed to the end of a word for the past tense.
Just 5 minutes.
Yes, you intellectually understand the rule. But then, you close the grammar book. You put it away.
Done with the
Done.
Yeah.
Then, you spend the next hour listening to a podcast or reading a story purely to look for that rule in action.
Ah, like a treasure hunt.
Exactly. You hear a native speaker say, "I walked," and your brain says, "Ah, there is the rule in the wild." You use grammar as a map to explore the real language, not as a cage that traps you.
You use it as a map, not a cage. Beautiful. And you know what the secret ingredient is to making this organic balance actually work?
I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
Enjoyment. Joy.
Ah, yes.
We severely underestimate the biological power of just having fun.
Joy is vastly underrated in education. People think learning has to be serious and painful to be effective.
No pain, no gain, right?
Right. But that's wrong. Memorizing giant, boring lists of vocabulary words from an old textbook is not just boring. It is biologically inefficient.
Tell us about the biology of boredom. Why do we forget the things we hate studying?
It comes back to the brain's defense mechanisms. When you are bored, frustrated, or disconnected from the material, your brain essentially goes to sleep.
It just tunes out.
It does. It does not produce the neurochemicals required to build strong memories. But when you are emotionally engaged, when you are laughing or curious or deeply interested in a story, your brain releases dopamine.
The famous happy chemical.
Yes, dopamine makes you feel good, but it also acts like a save button for your memory.
A save button. That's incredible.
When dopamine is present, the neural pathways we talked about earlier are built much faster. Curiosity and joy create the perfect chemical environment for memory retention.
So if joy is the save button, how do we actively push that button every day?
Good question.
Practically speaking, I think it means you must connect English to the things you already deeply love.
Yes,
Stop treating English as a separate, painful subject. Use English as a tool to experience your hobbies.
precisely. If you are deeply passionate about football, do not force yourself to read textbook dialogues about a fictional character going to the post office.
It's so boring.
It will put you to sleep. Instead, watch football highlights with English commentary. Read the post-match interviews of your favorite players in English.
Exactly. If you love technology and gadgets, watch tech reviews on YouTube in English.
Yes.
If you love cooking, throw away your native language recipes and start following English-speaking chefs. Use video games, use fantasy novels, use pop music.
And when you do this, something magical happens.
What's that?
Let's say you are watching a complex cooking video because you really genuinely want to know how to bake a specific chocolate cake.
Okay, I'm hungry already.
Right. Your brain is so highly focused on the cake and so hungry for the final result that the English language just slips in through the back door.
You don't even notice it.
You are absorbing words like whisk, bake, and flour without even realizing you are studying. The pressure is entirely gone.
And because the pressure is gone, you experience what I call invisible progress.
Invisible progress. I like that.
Because when you are just enjoying English day by day, watching your football matches or your cooking shows, you don't feel yourself getting smarter.
No, it's very gradual.
You don't wake up on a Tuesday morning suddenly feeling fluent. The growth is invisible on a daily basis.
That is so true. You cannot see your hair growing every single day in the mirror, But after 6 months, you suddenly need a haircut. Language is the same.
Which is why we must celebrate the small, tiny victories.
Absolutely.
Because the progress is invisible, learners often feel like they are failing. But maybe one day you were watching a YouTube video and you realize, wait a minute, I just understood that entire joke and I actually laughed at it.
A huge milestone.
Or you realize you just watched 5 minutes of a video without looking at the subtitles at all.
Yeah.
You have to stop and celebrate that.
Those moments are the most beautiful experiences in the language journey. You might go for 4 straight months feeling like absolutely nothing is changing.
Like you're stuck in the mud.
Yeah, you feel like you are just surviving. And then suddenly, you have this profound realization.
What happens?
You are driving in your car, listening to a podcast, and you realize that for the last 10 minutes, you haven't translated a single word in your head.
Oh, wow.
You were just purely understanding the ideas. It is a feeling of true freedom.
It is the absolute best feeling. It validates all those months of invisible effort.
It really does.
But we need to be realistic and honest with our listeners right now.
Okay, let's be honest.
Having fun is great. Experiencing dopamine is wonderful. But we are humans. We do not always feel like having fun.
You certainly don't.
What happens when the fun completely fades? What happens when you come home from work? It is dark outside, your head is pounding, you are stressed about money, and you have absolutely zero motivation to watch a cooking video in English.
That's a very real scenario.
It is. And this brings us to the ultimate battle. Motivation versus habit.
This is exactly where the vast majority of language learners quit.
Really? Here.
Yes, they build their entire strategy on the emotion of motivation. But motivation is incredibly fragile.
Because it's just a feeling.
Right, it is an emotion. And human emotions constantly rise and fall based on your sleep, your stress, and your environment.
Relying on motivation is like relying on the weather to travel across the ocean in a sailboat.
Oh, that's a great metaphor.
Some days you have great wind and you move fast. But some days there is no wind at all and you just sit there in the middle of the ocean stuck. You cannot control the wind.
That is a powerful metaphor. And this is why habits matter far, far more than motivation.
Habits over motivation.
Always. A habit is a behavior that has become automatic through repetition. It does not require emotional energy. It does not require willpower.
Think about brushing your teeth.
Okay.
You do not stand in your bathroom at 6 in the morning, staring in the mirror, trying to find the deep emotional motivation to brush your teeth.
No, definitely not.
You don't read inspirational quotes about dental hygiene. You just pick up the toothbrush and do it because it is an automatic, non-negotiable habit.
Exactly. And our goal is to make English feel exactly like brushing your teeth.
Automatic.
If you build a tiny non-negotiable habit, for example, listening to 20 minutes of an English podcast every single time you drive to work, you remove the need for decision-making.
Decision fatigue is real.
So real.
If you have to ask yourself every day, should I study English today? What time should I study? What books should I read? You will exhaust your willpower before you even begin.
Yes. But if the rule is simply, when I sit in the car, I press play on the podcast, there is no decision to make.
You just do it.
You don't debate with yourself. You save all your cognitive energy for actually processing the language.
And while we are talking about saving mental energy, we have to talk about the most toxic energy drain in the modern world.
What's that?
The trap of comparison.
Yes. Social media comparison.
It is destroying learners' confidence. You log on to the internet and you see someone claiming, I learned English in exactly 1 year, and now I sound like a native speaker from New York.
Yeah, we've all seen those posts.
They post a perfect video, and suddenly your own 2 years of hard work feels like a total failure. You feel humiliated by your own progress.
Comparison is incredibly destructive. What's fascinating here is how the brain reacts to that feeling of inadequacy.
It reacts physically.
Yes. When you compare yourself and feel like you are falling behind, your brain generates cortisol, that stress hormone we talked about earlier.
Oh no, the memory blocker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what does cortisol do? It blocks the memory centers of the brain. By comparing yourself to a stranger online, you are actively creating a chemical environment that makes it harder for you to learn.
So jealousy and comparison literally make you learn slower.
Absolutely. And logically, the comparison is entirely unfair anyway.
Why?
You are comparing your behind-the-scenes reality with someone else's carefully edited highlight reel.
That's so true.
You do not know that person's background. You do not know if they grew up with a bilingual parent. You do not know if their native language is Dutch or German.
Which are super close to English.
Right, which share massive similarities with English, making it much easier for them than for someone whose native language is, say, Japanese or Arabic.
Huge difference.
You do not know if they have 5 hours of free time every day while you are working 2 jobs and raising children.
It is comparing apples to oranges. You have to protect your peace. You have to stay in your own lane and run your own race.
When you stop comparing yourself to others, and you just focus calmly on your own daily 15-minute habit, you drop a massive emotional weight.
And then the wall comes down.
And when that weight is gone, your brain suddenly has all this free space and energy to absorb vocabulary faster. Peace of mind is actually a learning strategy.
Peace of mind is a learning strategy. Wow, I am going to write that down. So we are building peaceful, automatic, daily habits. But what is the ultimate habit?
The ultimate habit.
If a learner wants to reach the absolute highest level of fluency, what is the holy grail they should be aiming for? I believe it is the habit of thinking in English.
Think in English. It is the most common piece of advanced advice, yet it is also the most mysterious.
It really is.
Learners hear this, and they get very frustrated. They ask, how can I possibly force my brain to think in a language I don't fully understand yet? My brain naturally thinks in my native language.
Right. You can't just flip a switch in your brain and say, okay, no more native language today.
No, you can't.
So how do we actually do it? Let's give the listener some highly actionable step-by-step examples.
The key is that you do not force it. You gently train it, and you start incredibly small.
Small steps.
You do not start by trying to debate complex philosophy in your head. You start with physical objects.
Like things around the room.
Exactly. For example, when you are simply walking around your house or your apartment, try silently naming the objects you see in English.
Okay, I can picture that.
You look at the table and mentally say, table. You look at the window and think, window. You open the fridge and think, milk, apple, cold.
That sounds almost too simple. Does that really work?
It works because it starts the engine. It builds the microscopic habit of accessing English vocabulary without using the native language as a bridge.
Ah, bypassing the translation.
Yes. Once naming objects feels easy, you move to the next level. Mental narration.
Like becoming the narrator of your own life story.
Exactly. You mentally describe your own actions as they are happening in real time.
Give me an example.
When you are standing in the kitchen making breakfast, you think to yourself in simple English sentences. I'm making coffee now. The water is hot. I need a clean cup. I am tired today.
Now, I have to admit, when I have tried similar exercises, it feels very strange at first. It feels unnatural and, honestly, a little bit silly.
Oh, it will feel silly. Your brain will resist it at first because it requires more energy than thinking in your native language.
It's a workout.
But if you practice this mental narration for just a few minutes every day, a profound shift happens. Over time, your brain gets used to forming the thoughts directly in English.
And that is when the mental translation bridge completely collapses, right?
Yes.
You no longer have a thought in your native language, translate it, and then speak English. The thought actually originates in English.
Yes. Direct generation. When the thought originates in English, you have achieved true fluency.
Because it's instant.
Your reaction time becomes instant. You can finally tell jokes, understand sarcasm, and participate in fast-paced group conversations because the delay of translation is completely gone.
It is the ultimate bridge to fluency. But, to have those thoughts, you need to have a rich pool of words to pull from.
You do need vocabulary.
And while we have heavily emphasized listening today, we must also shine a light on the superpower of reading.
Reading is an incredible tool, particularly because it gives you control over time.
Control over time.
Yeah. When you listen to a podcast, the speaker sets the speed. But when you read a book or an article, you control the speed.
Oh, right. You can just stop.
You can stop, look at a sentence, analyze how the grammar connects the words, and truly absorb the context.
And it is all about context. Reading builds your vocabulary organically.
It does.
If you see a new difficult word written on a flashcard, you will probably forget it by tomorrow.
Usually, yes.
But if you are reading a simple mystery novel and you see that same new word used in chapter 1, then again in chapter 3, and again in chapter 5,
it sticks.
Your brain finally says, okay, this word keeps appearing in the story. I am going to permanently save it.
That deep space repetition through reading strongly reinforces memory. And speaking of specific words and phrases,
yes,
I think this is the perfect moment in our deep dives to focus purely on the language itself. We've used several important natural English phrases during our conversation today.
What?
As we promised at the beginning, we want to dedicate a few minutes to break down these key phrases for you, providing simple, clear explanations.
I love this segment. It is so important to take the theory we've been discussing and look at the actual language.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with a big phrase we used back in the first segment. We said, consistency matters more than intensity. Let's break those two words down.
Absolutely. Consistency means doing something regularly, on a dependable schedule, without stopping. Doing it every single day or every single week, like a steady heartbeat.
Nice. And intensity?
Intensity, on the other hand, means doing something with a massive amount of extreme effort, power, or energy, usually all at once.
So when we say consistency matters more than intensity, we are saying that a small, regular, dependable action is mathematically and biologically better than a massive, exhausting action that rarely happens.
Exactly. Let's use a physical example.
Okay.
Imagine a person who wants to get fit. If they go to the gym and lift the heaviest weights possible for 6 uninterrupted hours, but they only do it 1 day a year.
They will not get stronger.
No, they will just injure themselves. That is intensity.
Yeah.
But if they go for a brisk 20-minute walk every single morning for a year, their heart will become incredibly healthy. That is consistency.
A perfect example. All right, let's look at our second phrase, step by step. This is a very common, very comforting English idiom.
It is a wonderful phrase. Step by step means progressing slowly and carefully, moving through a process one stage at a time.
No rushing.
You do not skip to the end. You complete one small part, and then you move to the next small part.
It really pushes back against that toxic expectation of instant success we talked about. If you want to climb a massive mountain, you cannot jump to the top in one leap.
No, you'd fall.
You have to walk. You put one foot forward and then the other foot forward, step by step.
Exactly.
If you want to learn to play the guitar, you don't start by trying to play a heavy metal solo. You learn one string, then one chord, then a simple children's song, step by step.
Very true. Now, for the third phrase, we talk about how listening helps you get used to the natural rhythm of English.
To get used to something. This is a crucial phrase for learners.
To get used to something means to become entirely comfortable with a situation or a condition because you have experienced it many times. It implies a transition.
A transition.
Yeah. At first, the thing is strange, uncomfortable, or difficult.
Right.
But over time, through repeated exposure, it becomes completely normal.
I have a very relatable example for this.
Let's hear it.
Think about getting a new pair of leather shoes. The first day you wear them, they are stiff. They might even hurt your feet.
Blisters, yeah.
But you wear them every day for a month. The leather softens, it shapes to your foot, and eventually they are the most comfortable shoes you own. You have gotten used to the shoes.
Oh, that's great.
It is the exact same process with fast native speakers. The first time you hear them, it hurts your brain. But after listening to a daily podcast for 6 months, your ears get used to the speed. It feels comfortable.
That is a brilliant analogy. All right, our fourth phrase describes a deeply frustrating emotion. We talk about learners starting to feel stuck.
Feeling stuck. This is a very visual phrase.
It is. When you feel stuck, it means you feel like you are physically trapped in one place. You are unable to move forward, you cannot change your situation, and you cannot see any progress no matter how much energy you expend.
Trapped.
Imagine a car that has driven into very deep, wet mud. The driver pushes the gas pedal, the tires spin very fast, the engine is loud, but the car does not move an inch. The car is stuck.
And learners feel this constantly. You might feel stuck at the intermediate level, that B1 plateau.
Very common plateau.
You study every day, your tires are spinning, but you feel like you are not moving closer to fluency. You are stuck in the mud.
Which leads us perfectly to our fifth and final phrase, which is a powerful mindset shift. Practice makes progress.
Now, anyone who has studied English for a while has probably heard the old traditional proverb, practice makes perfect.
We all have.
But we are actively pushing back against that proverb today. We want to destroy the idea of perfection. Perfection is a myth, and chasing it will make you miserable. So we adapt the phrase, practice makes progress.
I love this adapted phrase. It means that every single time you put in effort, every time you speak a broken sentence, every time you listen to a podcast, every time you read a page of a book, you are moving forward.
Moving the needle.
You are making progress. You might still have a heavy accent. You might still make grammar mistakes. You are absolutely not perfect, but you are undeniably better today than you were yesterday. Practice simply guarantees progress.
Practice makes progress. It removes all the heavy, suffocating pressure from the learner's shoulders. Well, Looking at the clock, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let me try to do a quick summary of the incredible psychological journey we just took.
Please do. It was quite a journey.
We started by looking at how difficult language learning feels when we fall into the expectation trap set by social media. We learned that to beat that stress and honor our biology, we need to choose consistency over intensity.
Yes, 15 minutes a day is better than a 5-hour Sunday cram session.
Exactly. And then we moved into the core mechanics. We explored how listening practice must be your concrete foundation. You have to listen to get used to the natural rhythm, and you must shift your goal away from perfect mental translation toward grasping the general meaning.
And then we faced the scariest monster of all speaking.
The scariest part.
We realized that waiting for the perfect moment is an illusion, that making mistakes is neurologically necessary, and that we must not let the strict rules of grammar trap us in a cage of silence. Grammar should be a map, not a cage.
Finally, we explored the deep psychology of learning. We discussed how finding joy and connecting English to your personal hobbies releases dopamine, making learning physically easier for your brain.
The save button.
Right. And because emotional motivation always fades, we emphasize the power of building non-negotiable daily habits, protecting your peace from online comparison, and ultimately training your brain to think directly in English through simple daily narration.
It really is a massive life-changing journey, and I want to say to you, the listener, right now, please be kind to yourself.
Yes, please.
Changing the physical structure of your brain takes time. It takes immense patience. Step by step, improvement will happen naturally if you just stay exposed to the language.
Absolutely. Be kind to yourself.
And I will remind you one more time, just as I did at the beginning, if you did not understand every single word we said today, that is completely 100% okay.
You're doing great.
You showed up today, you practiced, you challenged your brain, you made progress today. Just continue listening, and the understanding will naturally grow over time.
As we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought today. Something to really think about the next time you feel that deep frustration.
Yes, I want you to reconsider what it means to struggle. What if that highly frustrating feeling of being stuck, that dark period where you feel like you're not learning a single new thing, what if that is actually just the quiet period where your brain is doing its heaviest restructuring?
Ooh, restructuring.
What if the brain is simply working incredibly hard behind the scenes, consolidating old memories, and preparing the neural pathways for your next sudden amazing leap in fluency?
Wow. I love that perspective so much. You aren't stuck, you are just under construction. Well, we would absolutely love to hear what you think about this concept and everything else we discussed today.
We really would.
Please, scroll down right now and leave a comment under the video. Share your honest opinion on this topic. Have you ever felt stuck in your language journey? Do you struggle with the fear of speaking? What are your favorite personal hobbies that you use to enjoy English?
We read the comments, and we genuinely love hearing your stories.
We do. And please, while you're in the comments, suggest a new topic for future discussions. What psychological barrier or language concept should we deeply analyze next time? Your suggestions directly help us make this channel better for you.
If you enjoyed our deep dive today, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video, and recommend the podcast to a friend or family member who is also on the journey of learning English.
It helps us grow our community and helps us continue making these deep dives for you. Thank you so much for spending your time and having your coffee with us today. Have a wonderful, peaceful week. Remember that practice makes progress, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Keep going, step by step. Goodbye.